Where's my little wood thing? There we go.
1 minute.
We got 1 minute.
Yeah, here come the girls.
Better to start early than start late. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Destin City Council, January 6, 2020, our new decade, to order. We're going to have an invocation tonight with Pastor Kevin Wendt from Grace Lutheran Church.
Oh, I was holding it down. There we go. Sorry. We pray for you, and thank you for serving. We pray. Gracious God, Heavenly Father, from you comes all rule and authority over the nations and states and cities of the world for the punishment of evildoers and for the praise of those who do well. We humbly ask you to graciously regard these your servants in our city of Destin, these who make, administer, and judge the affairs of this city. Look with mercy upon them and grant them to bear the authority you've given them according to your command. Enlighten and defend them and give them wisdom and understanding, that under their reasoned and peaceable governance your people may be guarded and directed in righteousness and quietness and unity. Protect and prolong their lives, that we with them may show forth the praise of your holy name. We pray this in the name of him who is fully God, born fully man, to live the perfect life, to die the perfect sacrifice, to rise from the dead, the perfect resurrection and life, your Son and Savior from sin, ascended to heaven, and to return the last day to judge the living and the dead, Jesus Christ. He lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen.
Mr. Overdeer, would you like to lead us in the pledge? All right, first up is the agenda approval. Council members, do you have an item?
I'd like to pull item 6C for discussion.
Item 6C.
Consent.
Okay, you want to pull item 6C off the consent agenda in a form of a motion? Do we need to vote on that, or is that you were just going to pull it?
That can just be pulled.
Okay. All right. Is there any other item, ladies or gentlemen? Seeing none, that's I'll entertain a motion to
I'll
approve
make
the
that
agenda.
motion, Mayor. Second.
All in favor? Ayes have it, so moved. Item 1A, approval of the minutes, October 7th, 2019, regular city council meeting.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
I got a motion.
Second.
Got a second. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none? Ayes have it, so moved. Item 1B, approval of the minutes, October 31st, or October 21st, 2019, regular city council meeting.
I'll make that motion, Mayor. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none? Ayes have it, so moved. Next on the agenda is the recognition of the 2019 Holiday Decorating Contest winners. And we'll step up here. I'll go ahead and just read from our press release. The City of Destin is pleased to announce the winners of this year's holiday outdoor decorating contest. The contest proved to be difficult to judge as many Destin homes, businesses, and organizations did a fantastic job showing their holiday spirit through decorations. The city received multiple phone calls and emails pointing out locations that had done an outstanding job of decorating their property. This information was given to the judges who went throughout Destin with the challenging task of picking the best of the best. The winners will be recognized at the January 6th meeting tonight. So we're going to start. I just want to thank everyone who participated, and the judges especially. And their names will be held in confidentiality for their own protection. The best home is Jim and Barbara Telford, 19 Indian Bayou Drive. Are they here? Thank you for making a lot of people happy. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Best business is Burrito del Sol, 515 Harbor Boulevard. Are they here tonight? Anybody here? Oh, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Here, cheese. Congratulations. The best organization is Corpus Christi's Catholic Church, 307 Beach Drive. Job well done. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sure. Go ahead.
I just like to thank the city for doing this for the last 15 years we've participated, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Best condominium, Holiday Isle Towers, 770 Gulf Shores Drive. Nobody's here? Okay. Best of Holiday, Stephen and Teresa Abear, 716 Main Street. And I got to drive by their house every single night, and I smiled every single night that I drove by. Congratulations, guys. And then the last category is Best on the Harbor, and that went to the Emerald Grand, 10 Harvard Boulevard. Is anyone here? Ah.
How are you? Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. Because I know you had something.
No, not really.
One more. Yep. Got to get the official government picture.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. All right, thank you. Item number 3, public comments on the agenda items that are not public hearings and any other matters not on the agenda. I've only got one yellow card tonight. After this person comes up to speak, I'll look out in the audience, and if anyone wants to come up for make a comment, their 3-minute comment, you're more than welcome. I want to remind everyone they'll have another opportunity at the very end of the meeting to do the same thing. Up first is Ed Rogers. Just want to remind everybody, Ed, just state your name and your address, and then you got 3 minutes.
Ed Rogers, 500 Harbor Boulevard, and Happy New Year to the council. I'm here to talk about the letter from Lance Johnson to the city council dated 12/16. Actually, it's dated 12/11/19, and we talked about it at the city council meeting just before the new year. And it was a request for direction from the city council regarding proposed changes to livery vessel and marine construction requirements. I'm not sure what that request means as far as them looking for direction from you guys, but what I'm here to ask is that when you give them direction, to ask them to make us part of the decision-making process, bring us in and let us have a say. You know, what we're afraid of is, I had a meeting with Mr. Lewis the day after the last city council meeting. It was very productive, very nice guy, and I felt good after the meeting. I didn't feel that everything's completely resolved, but I felt like we could probably have a give and take and move forward in a positive direction. But, you know, we're afraid that the city's going to say, hey, yeah, we'll have a meeting. We've come up with all the ideas. We'll bring in and tell you the way it's going to be. And then that's your input. And I think that's the wrong direction. You know, in the past, the city's had a propensity for lawsuits. And I think a lot of times it's because, you know, they don't understand my business or the business that they're trying to affect. And they try to pass an ordinance. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't really take care of the objective they're trying to take care of. And, you know, they box us in a corner, and the only thing we can do is sue. But I think if you guys gave them direction and said, hey, bring the pontoon, the livery guys in, and lay out your issues and let them give you some back and forth, we can probably, we probably could do something positive. But the way that it's gone in the past and the way that we saw this letter, we really don't feel that anybody's actually taken into effect how we run our business, and really that they have any understanding whatsoever of our business. All of you guys do something to make a living, and I wouldn't dare try to tell you how to run your business, and I certainly wouldn't try to pass an ordinance that affected your business without talking to you and really understanding. And you guys are in that position that you guys get to make those rules. And so it's important to really understand how these things will affect us. And the stuff that was laid out would affect us in a really negative way. Mr. Marler really hit it on the head at that meeting when he said it could possibly put half the guys out of business. It could. And so I'm just asking the city to direct those guys to include us in putting together whatever comes back to you. Thank you.
Hold on one second. Does any council members have any questions or any comments they would like to ask? Go ahead, Rodney.
I don't believe that this council has to allow you or anyone else to speak or participate in any way, shape, or fashion in this process, but that's not the way we operate. We've always allowed, you know, everyone to voice their opinion and encourage you guys to come in and put in your 2 cents and try to help us figure it all out. And that's what we're going to continue to do. We've never shut you out or anybody else out. We've tried to keep everything above board. But I can tell you one thing, and I think I can speak for the majority of this council. If you want to get an attorney, then you get you an attorney, and that's when all the talking and everything else ceases, and you can get your attorney, and we'll use our attorneys, and that'll be the end of it. But I'm sure we encourage everyone to come in and let's sit down and yeah, let's work it out. It's always been like that, and we will continue to be that way.
Mr. Braden, I'm encouraged to hear you say that, but the facts are, recently I received a letter saying that I was breaking the law, and when I went back and looked, I couldn't find a single conversation. I went back as far as 2002. not one conversation talking about pontoon boats parked in the livery business that we operate, a business that is used specifically for livery and nothing else. And I was told that that was the law. And my understanding of the way that these laws work is the interpretation of the law is what the city council intended at the time they voted it. And if there wasn't a single conversation about us, code enforcement shouldn't be allowed to decide what the law is and send us a letter and then tell us that that letter is our due process. That's not the American way. That's not giving us an opportunity to speak and participate. That's just, you know, really haphazardly just coming out of nowhere when we've done, I've owned this property 11 years and jumped through all kinds of hoops to specifically do what I do. And so, you know, it's really disconcerting for us when we get those kinds of things. And I'm glad you said that, because that's the way we would like to operate. We would like to participate and be able to just tell you why we think a proposed ordinance maybe won't make sense. And the city could tell us why it does make sense, and maybe we can each have an understanding. But when you just get a letter and there's no explanation and you're told your due process is that letter. I mean, you know, when you say, well, you get a lawyer, then it's over and we got our lawyer. When you box somebody in a corner and they have no other options, you know, especially when you've invested $1.5 million on a piece of property, another $1 million in a business, you have no other option than to fight, and we don't want to. We would rather work with the city. We would rather, this city is important to us. I mean, I love this city, and I own commercial property, I own residential property. I'm very proud of this city. And so we don't want to fight. But, you know, we want an opportunity to work with you guys.
Yeah. Gentlemen, let me hop in. I think we're on the same page to a degree. We've set up a short-term rental task force bringing industry in with regards to passing some of the short-term rental regulations over the last 2 years. I think that's a precedent we set. I don't think we need a task force in this circumstance. I think if my assessment right now is that we've got a bundle of proposed new ordinances that have come before the council. It sounds like there's a few of them that the livery industry is going to take some issue and have some sticking points with. Ms. Kopp and Lance, is there a way within a month or so to set up I'd say it may not even be necessary to do a workshop with council sitting there, but to have an open meeting with a set agenda so that we can have the industry come and sit down with you guys in I guess a semi-formal fashion, so that you guys can hammer out some of these final issues, at which point, if it seems that we've got everything but a few points or all of them resolved, then we can, as the council, chew through it without having to cause a whole lot of kerfuffle up here in the middle of a public meeting. So as long as we have the buy-in.
I'd be happy to set that up.
We have the ordinance advertised and scheduled, the livery vessel ordinance changes scheduled to go to LPA on January 16th, and then to council in February. All of those meetings would have public hearings. If that's not sufficient and you want us to have a workshop before then, we can reschedule the LPA or continue it to a date certain so that we don't have to re-advertise. But as of now, there's an ordinance in process that would involve public hearings.
So the LPAA is basically our advisory panel to work through some of these kinds of issues. So the industry really needs to be at that meeting to participate in that discussion before they make recommendations to us. I think being
Yes.
a public forum and a public setting, that would probably, if you really would like certain individuals on the council to attend that LPA meeting, well, you could call them up. You have access, open access to any of the members here. That may be the way to do it without calling a special workshop or something like that. I think that would probably be suffice with the LPA, and we get the minutes of it.
And I don't know the legality, but, you know, we had a meeting, Mike Abity, that owns Gilligan's, and I, with Mr. Lewis and Mr. Forgione. It was very productive. But, you know, it was a 2-on-2, and, you know, at one point, Mr. Lewis said, we're going to be civil here. But I felt like it was constructive, and they were able to kind of tell us where they were coming from, and I think they got where we were coming from. And so that kind of interaction, I think, is important. I don't know if you get that in like an open forum LPA, and I don't know if it's legal for us to be in a closed meeting like that, but I know that that was productive for us, at least in our short term.
I'm sure that staff would be happy to meet with you. There's no legal requirement for an open meeting if you're just meeting with us over here with staff. If you're bringing in the city council or another board of the city, then there may be sunshine law issues where they can't meet in a closed meeting. But I would suggest that we meet on staff. We would listen to your input. The ordinance is in the works. It's not final yet.
And we'd like to do it before it's like in the works, because
Okay. And the other, and beyond that, it is possible to do what you're saying at the LPA meeting. That's what it's for, to take in the public comment, and the LPA can make recommendations based on what it hears and all of the competent substantial evidence that comes forward to it. And council's not bound by the LPA's recommendation either, so there will also be 2 more public hearings in front of the council. So there's going to be plenty of time, but notwithstanding all of that, staff is certainly willing to hear any of the stakeholders. We often have those meetings when we're doing ordinances.
glad to hear it.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Got another card? All right, my next up will be John Fuller. John, just hit the button, state your name and your address. You got 3 minutes. You want to clear us?
Johnny Fuller, 172 Harbor Boulevard, Tailfins Pontoons and Restaurants. I don't know, I was frustrated back there. I just listened to Mr. Braden, appalled at someone saying, we'll get our lawyer, you get your lawyer. We'll figure this out. That's very, very frustrating to me. And I've heard that conversation before through some city council members. I'm tired of the targeting, the prejudice, and not making everyone conform to the same rules on the harbor. I do everything in a first-class operation there and trying to make sure that everything's up and above board, but I seem to get targeted, or delivery vessels, or any individuals that affiliated with me get targeted, and it's getting frustrating. And if it has to come down to Ed and us, I'd be happy to join you. Mike, anybody here with an attorney to have to proceed with this. Yeah, I love Destin. I've been here 20 years, and I'm frustrated over what happens. Looking through some of this paperwork is we have to fill out an application, a renewal application every year with all the different pertinent things where you have to get specs and engineering and designs, and it's ridiculous. Once you've jumped through those hoops to do it when you first started your operation, it should be it. And then you should have a renewal notice and say, okay, whatever the fee is, which was $75 a couple of years ago. I think he raised it to $100 now. And who knows, when that's going to stop. But the main reason why I'm here is I'm getting frustrated with the targeting and the prejudice of this certain area, with certain, whether if it's code enforcement, city council members, etc. And it's very frustrating to me, and I'm going to be behind these guys 110% because I'm just looking for a fair operating field here, and it hasn't happened here. And I've been here 20 years. I still feel like an outsider. It's very frustrating to me. So with that being said, my application has always been complete to the fullest prior to anything happening on the harbor. And last year they came at me and they physically gave this code enforcer gave my pontoon guy a ride up and down on a Sunday morning at 9 o'clock asking where my city stickers were. Well, I had my check, all my T's and I's taken care of, and they said, oh, we apologize, after they pretty much browbeated my pontoon captain. So it's very frustrating to me, once again, to see all the regulations and red tapes that we have to go through to operate here in Destin. Once I've filled it out completely and satisfied it, and with my development orders, and through this different city managers, different code enforcers that I've been through, it just seems like it's a never-ending thing here. And I'd appreciate, whether it's the LPA meeting or a workshop, I want to do one of those if there's going to be some changes made. And if I have to come up with a new application every year, that it takes time and energy and effort. I mean, we're trying to run a restaurant and a pontoon business, and then I got to spend 4 or 5 days with an accountant or an attorney to fill out your paperwork. And it's very frustrating to me.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, anybody from the audience? I'll get you next, Carrie, or you were just going up, throw trash in the trash? Going up next? Come on up, sir. State your name, your address. Got 3 minutes.
I'm Ron Sandstad, and my wife and I, Michelle, live at 337 Calhoun. And I just want to thank the opportunity that we've had to do our banners on Main Street. And I want to say thank you, the council and city staff, Tim Piedenpaul and Lisa Firth, for their help and ideas on how to do this stuff. And because I couldn't do it without them. Anyway, I'd like to propose that my organization buy more banner poles for Destin. I'd like to see banner poles on Airport Road, and in another 2 weeks we're going to have an auction where we're selling off their original artwork at La Paz Restaurant. And it'll be a silent auction, so you can go in starting the 9th and put your name down in the how many hundreds of dollars you want to pay for this artwork. But the whole idea is to raise money and try to put it back into Destin. And I was told by Tim that a banner pole cost about $300. So I'd like to propose that my organization buy 8 banner poles that are then placed on Airport Road. Now the banners have been coming down off of Main Street, and they've been going to the community center, and they look great there, Lisa. And been going over to City Hall and hanging up there, and we want to continue that. I don't want to roll these banners up after we've used them and retired them and stick them in a corner. I want to see them out on the street. I think it makes Destin a better place, and I just want to thank all you guys for your help. We're getting it done. All right.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Ron, excuse me, one question. First of all, Lance, do you foresee any issue with the banners on Airport Road? Just so we could let Ron know, do you think that would be a problem?
The only thing we would want to touch base with engineers to make sure that wind loads and things like that, for safety purposes, are going to be met.
That's what I was saying. And,
just like we did on Main Street.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'd have you guys buy the poles, and that discussion needs to happen as to how we do that. Do I donate the money then to a special fund for Destin, or how do you want to do that? What would be make you happiest?
With council's permission, I think if Mr. Sands just work with me directly
Absolutely.
on that, I think we can come up with a plan.
Sure. And Ron, thanks for everything you and your group did. It's fantastic. Thanks for everything.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thanks, Ron. We've talked about expanding that whole idea in different ways throughout the city in terms of some sort of unifying theme. I think we talked about even trying to involve Gulf Power and seeing if we could hang things on their poles, and they actually seemed pretty amenable to that idea. So what y'all started is an amazing, beautiful thing, and it really hits home that sense of community. So thank you for what you started, and hopefully we can see it sort of spiral and expand throughout the city.
I'm hoping soon that we'll have no Gulf Power poles and we'll just have banners up there. Carrie, would you like to come up and address the council, please?
Carrie Harbarger, Spring Lane. I would like to thank you for hearing me, and also I wanted to quiz the not the council, but perhaps the staff could refresh refresh everybody's memory or where we stood, and I never would call a business out, but I want to defend the council a little bit on this parking issue. I've been coming to these meetings for a very long time and brainstormed with a lot of people that have sit on this council what we're going to do about this parking. Could somebody please reiterate how a business opened with such little parking that currently searches to purchase or lease off-site parking? Does that make sense? Without saying names of a business, did we not enter into an insurance bond with a company that was supposed to follow through with development and parking? Am I wrong here? Am I seeing something wrong? There was never any proper parking to be threatening lawsuits against the city to open that business from the gentleman that spoke 2 people ago. Am I wrong? Can the staff direct that? If I remember, they issued a bond, an insurance bond that said that they were going to complete parking and have proper with the development. Am I wrong? Can somebody refresh me, staff? Mayor, you're not familiar?
I think you're pretty close.
Am I close?
Yeah.
Because I do remember sitting in all these meetings, and I do remember they never had the proper parking to begin with. And we've been banging our heads. They didn't even have proper parking for employees. And I happen to know for a fact that they currently are searching to lease off-site parking. How do they possibly have? And I'm not trying to be a butt to any small businesses, but we're all here banging our heads for the same reasons. We're just trying to make it compatible for our city to have the parking. Did that company, did the business not have to have a bond when they had their development order? With their development order, they had a bond because they didn't finish the development. They were able to open their doors prior to having the proper parking.
I don't think we know what property you're specifically talking about, and also I wouldn't want to speak about somebody's private property that could result in a code enforcement quasi-judicial hearing here. So let's talk after the meeting, and maybe we can answer your questions.
I might be wrong, so
I don't. We'll talk.
I
'Cause
just
don't
sit
know.
in these meetings, and it seems to me I just remember there wasn't proper parking for that business to begin with, and then recently I am aware that they're trying to lease parking because they don't have it. That was all. I don't have a dog in that fight, by the way. I just wanted to reiterate, and perhaps maybe somebody could inform the people, but
Carrie?
we'll get to it. Thank you.
Carrie, I got one answer for you.
Sure.
In the past, and I think I know the business you're talking about, all they did was hire an attorney or somebody to pencil whip a parking study that says, where they're parking here and they're parking there. And in the past, the city has accepted it.
I'm sorry, that's correct. I do remember. They did their own personal parking study and submitted it to the city, and our city adopted it in their development order without the proper parking. I think I remember that.
That is correct.
Thank you. I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. Sorry for the... Thank you.
Marcy?
Happy New Year. Marcy Bell, 3 Gulf Breeze Court. I am no longer a member of the Short-Term Rental Task Force. I resigned my position. For those of you who don't know, I think I will serve you better as a citizen. Our work was done, but I wanted to reiterate before you hear item 4I, the request for direction from City Council on amendments to short-term rental ordinance. I just wanted to reiterate from my last statements here at the podium that in that meeting, we had decided, or correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe somebody else can come up and speak and correct me or agree with me, that we weren't looking for amendments to the ordinance. In the end, we were just looking for additional comments to the application where they would agree that this, that, and the other. And I also wanted to reiterate, because trash cans were such an issue, that the reason that we came up with the 6 cans, I don't even remember how it was said. Anyways, yeah, 1 per 6, thank you, was based on information that came from Waste Management's representative that was there. And he gave us the information that pertained to how much garbage went for however many people, and that's how that came up. There were a couple of items that went back and forth, 1 per 5, 1 per 6, and the 1 per 6 was the one that came out of that committee. But I wanted to reiterate for you guys and the public that it wasn't really in the end about making amendments to an ordinance, It was about the application document. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. Is anyone in the audience? Oh, I got a couple hands. We'll go with Bill and then Ken.
Hi, Bill Reddington, 722 Vintage Circle, Destin, Florida. As I read through the potential changes that the short-term rental people came up, I'm just going to ask once again that you table all that and have Joey continue to enforce what you have on the books already. Okay? I don't think I'll get any disagreement here with the fact that there was limited code enforcement before he showed up here. Okay? And the result of all this, like the 36 Bert Harris claims, of which I've also heard there's many more coming. Okay, on those first 36, it represented approximately $36 million worth of lost value to those people that filed that claim. Okay? If another 50 to 80 do that, I mean, that makes the cities potentially responsible for about $86 million or $80 million or whatever $1 million because of lost value. Now, I printed the Bert Harris Act, which is by the state of Florida today. I was so crazy that I didn't have a chance to really study it real hard. I will do that probably tomorrow. But that's why I say, please just have Joey do what he's supposed to do. He's rather obvious that he's doing that by the figures that are in that 490 pages that were tonight's meeting, okay? Because I even got a call today from somebody that owns 2 houses, okay? And things like the stickers in the cars, that's, you know, you got a sign that says how many parking places, okay? And part of the reality of that is some person I talked to did a remodel on their house by way of the code, by way of pulling permits, by way of everything, and he got changed his driveway so that he could park 8 cars there. I'm not saying that's good, bad, or indifferent, but then with your new laws that came out with you adjusting the parking that he has on his own private property, you said he could only have 5. And last year or a year before that, you gave him 8. So certain things like that, I guess I just don't understand. Why don't you give this gentleman the opportunity to do what he does for a living? Okay, we've obviously beefed it up because you just hired 2 more people or are attempting to hire 2 more people. I see lots of new trucks out there, okay? So there's obviously people out there. Sometimes I'd sure like to see them north of Highway 98, but I know that they'll get to that at some point, because there's a whole lot of places in this town where you got 6 cars in the front yard and the driveway and boats and all the rest of it. And I don't personally care, but if the ordinance is good for down there, why isn't it good for over here? Okay, so that's what I'm asking once again, is just let's revisit this, have Joey do his job, okay, and try and make the people happy and try and avoid 80 lawsuits.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Mr. Wampler.
Good afternoon, and good evening, and Happy New Year. Ken Wampler, 310 Laripe Loop. I'm here to speak on behalf of short-term vacation rental. I was on that task force, and as Ms. Bell said, we spent the majority of our time, just to reiterate, communicate and educate. The only 2 things that we're asking the City Council to take action on relative to the proposed changes is to change the renewal date to the last day of February. So that would be a change that you all would have to adopt, and also to increase the parking violation fee to the maximum allowed by Florida statute. Plain and simple, that's the only 2 things we're asking you to take action on. Everything else is currently already in the ordinance relative to parking passes. Either they have a violation or they don't have a violation. If they do, then it's a violation. If the trash is in the trash can and at the curb when it's supposed to be and not when it's not supposed to be, there's no violation. If the trash is not in the trash can, there's a violation. Plain and simple. No reason to change anything other than the renewal date and the parking violation. So my request to you as a City Council is that those are the only 2 items you need to take action on tonight, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Do you think we can get this done between the two of us, or does everybody need a lawyer up?
I think we got it done the last time we talked about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Is there anyone else that'd like to come up? Come on up, sir.
Mike Abity, 530 Harbor Boulevard, here to discuss the delivery vessel issue. Kind of hard of hearing, so I missed some of what you said. Mr. Destin, were you going to allow us to participate in this?
Well, I'm just one member of council. I was encouraging the council to give staff the latitude to meet with you guys and try to hammer out the sticking points that you have in the bundle of proposed ordinances and hopefully do it in a way that can be resolved. Because I tend to agree with the sentiment that I'm not 100% sure that LPA is the best forum to try to do that in. But if you guys can all sit down, set an agenda that talks to the 3 to 4 points, because we haven't even discussed the picking and sticking points. So my suggestion is bring those to council, or bring those to staff. And once we get some of that stuff ironed out, we may be able to tweak some things and stay on a schedule that everybody finds agreeable. And that way everybody has had buy-in and we don't necessarily step on a whole lot of toes trying to solve some of the stuff that I think mostly the industry agrees with.
Thank you. We appreciate that. I was going to address some of those issues tonight, but if we're going to get some input later down the road, I'll save my objections and my concerns to a later time. One issue a couple of issues that I did have were several of these issues on this 8-point list. I talked to 7 different people in our industry, in the delivery industry today alone, and a couple more over the last couple of weeks. Not saying it's right, not saying it's wrong. The general consensus is that the delivery vessel industry is being targeted. Okay. I also, along with Ed Rogers, I also received a letter of violation on my property, and I received 2 letters of violation on a piece of property that I rent. That's not what I'm here to discuss tonight. The only thing I want to mention about that issue is I've been in this business for 30 years. I've been renting boats. I've been at this location for 23 years renting boats. I've been following all the rules and regulations, and now all of a sudden I'm doing the same things I've always done, and now it seems like I'm breaking the law. I'm not doing anything different than I've done for the last 23 years. So if it was good for 23 years, what makes it not good today? I've owned that property, my company's owned that property since 1969. That was before Destin was even a city. Okay, I've been in business at this location, renting boats on and off for 30 years. Following the rules and regulations, we feel that we're under, the general consensus of the people I talk to, they feel they're under siege from the city. I'm not saying the city council, I'm not saying code enforcement, from the city of Destin in general. It's a shame. I've been vacationing here for 50 years. I live here for 30 years. I've been in business here for 30 years. It's a shame that we feel that our city is the enemy, treating us like the enemy. Is this the way you want to treat your citizens? Is this the way you want the public to feel, that they're under siege from the city, that the city's our enemy? Y'all came up 3 years ago, came up with a set of rules and regulations for the delivery vessel industry. We didn't like it, but we followed all the rules and regulations. I've been following all the rules and regulations for the last 3 years. Now all of a sudden, well, you know, they follow those rules and regulations. Let's come up with some new ones, maybe to make their business tougher, to make it harder on them. And that's what it seems like, is that we followed all the rules you put 3 years ago, so now you're going to stand, every hot dog stand, every gift shop, every condominium should follow the same rules and regulations. Okay? We don't need a separate set of rules and regulations just for the delivery industry. So a lot of these rules and regulations are already on the books if they would be enforced, but the same set of rules should follow for everyone. Okay? One thing I will bring up in this list is item number 7, where we have to, or item number 8, where we have to totally file our application brand new 100% every year. We've been doing it about 50% for the last 2 years. Now they want to waive that, and they want to make us do it. I've been in business for 50 years. I've had at least 15 different businesses in 3 states, 7 or 8 counties, half a dozen cities. I've run all kind of business. I've had liquor licenses, restaurants, nightclubs, dealt with alcohol beverage boards. Never in my life, in 50 years, have I ever had to submit to any government entity a complete 100% application every year. It's a burden on me, just like Mr. Fuller said, is that we have to hire people to, I mean, it's not a simple process to fill out these applications. They're complicated applications. We all got to go bother the fire marshal every year. We all got to go bother, we have to get, just all the paperwork that it takes. It's ridiculous to have to redo all of that every year. If you say we got to do it, we got to do it, but now you know why we feel that we're being targeted, that we're being under siege, and it's,
Thank you, Mike.
to me, it's too much government.
Okay, thanks. All right, thank you, Mike.
Okay,
Time out.
thank you.
Come on.
Hi, Sherry Andrews, 5 Calhoun Avenue. 2020 marks my 50th year of living in Destin. I grew up in a family business. Little business started in the garage of our house. Y'all might be familiar with it, the Destin Log. From there, my family started another business, which is now on its 3rd generation. I did the same thing with my water sport business. I started it 12 years ago, and I'm at the point where I'm ready to pass it on to my son. We have done everything council has asked us to do. We have done backflips. I was unaware.